My brother wanted my house as his free wedding venue for 180 guests, then expected to live in my basement for a year. Hi everyone! Today's story will blow your mind, but really quick, if you enjoy this content, hit that subscribe button. Channel's been a bit quiet lately, and your support keeps it all going. Let's jump in. Original post. I never thought I'd be writing one of these posts, but here I am at 2 a.m., sitting in my home office after another 14-hour day at the rehabilitation clinic, wondering if I'm the worst brother in the world or if my family has completely lost their minds. My name is Marcus, I'm 28, and I work as a physical therapist specializing in post-surgical rehabilitation. I bought my house 2 years ago, a 4-bedroom colonial with a finished basement in a decent neighborhood about 40 minutes outside the city. It was a foreclosure that needed significant work, and I spent every weekend for 6 months fixing it up. New hardwood floors throughout, completely updated kitchen with granite countertops and stainless steel appliances, renovated all 3 bathrooms, and completely finished the basement with its own kitchenette, full bathroom, and separate entrance. It's my pride and joy, the result of 7 years of aggressive saving and literally hundreds of hours of sweat equity. To give you context about my work, I specialize in helping patients recover from major surgeries, hip replacements, knee reconstructions, spinal surgeries. These are people who often can't walk, can't dress themselves, sometimes can't even sit up without assistance. My days start at 6 a.m. and rarely end before 8 p.m. I see between 35 and 40 patients a week, each requiring intense physical and emotional energy. When someone is relearning to walk after a car accident, you can't phone it in. When a 25-year-old athlete is crying because they might never play again, you have to be fully present. When an elderly person is fighting to maintain independence after a fall, every session matters. The house represents everything I've worked for. During PT school, I lived in a studio apartment with 3 roommates. Yes, 3 roommates in a studio, with curtains dividing rooms. I ate ramen 5 nights a week, drove a 15-year-old Honda with 200,000 miles that required a prayer to start, and wore the same 5 scrubs on rotation for 3 years. I missed friends' weddings because I couldn't afford gifts, let alone travel. I studied in the library until midnight because my apartment was too chaotic. Every dollar went toward tuition or survival. My brother Tyler is 25 and works as an apprentice electrician. He's been dating Sarah for 3 years, and they got engaged 6 months ago. I was genuinely happy for them. Sarah's wonderful, has her master's in education, and they complement each other perfectly. She's organized where he's scattered, ambitious where he's content, pragmatic where he's a dreamer. The wedding is planned for next September, which gives them about 8 months to prepare. Last Sunday, my entire family came over for dinner. Mom, Dad, Tyler, Sarah, and my sister Emma. I should have known something was orchestrated when Mom insisted on bringing all the food, her famous pot roast, the garlic mashed potatoes I love, even her homemade apple pie. She kept commenting on how beautiful my house looked, how spacious everything was, how perfect the backyard seemed for entertaining. After dinner, once we'd moved to the living room with coffee and pie, Tyler cleared his throat in that way that immediately made my stomach tense. Sarah was studying her hands intently, and Mom had this expectant smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. "So, Marcus," Tyler started, his voice artificially casual, "Sarah and I have been looking at wedding venues." I nodded, waiting. I remembered pricing venues when I was helping my college friend plan his wedding. The costs were astronomical. We'd looked at 12 places, and the cheapest was $5,000 just for the space, not including anything else. "Everything is insane," Tyler continued, gaining momentum. "Like, criminally expensive. The Riverside Manor wants $12,000 just for 6 hours. The Botanical Gardens is $15,000, and they have a preferred vendor list where the cheapest caterer is $100 per person. Even the American Legion Hall is $3,000, and it smells like cigarettes from 1975. Sarah finally looked up, adding quietly, "My parents can contribute $5,000, and we've saved $3,000, but that barely covers food for the number of people we need to invite." "So we were thinking," Tyler said, and here his eyes got that bright quality I remembered from childhood when he was about to ask for something big. "Your backyard is absolutely huge. You've got that beautiful patio area you built, the garden Mom helped you plant with all the perennials, the perfect maple tree for photos, and plenty of street parking. We could have the ceremony in the garden with chairs arranged around that central fountain you installed, and the reception on the lawn with a tent." My backyard is admittedly nice. It's about 1/3 of an acre, meticulously landscaped. I'd spent countless hours and roughly $8,000 creating different zones, the raised vegetable garden beds, the perennial flower garden with its carefully planned 3-season blooming schedule, the patio with built-in seating and a fire pit, the lawn area that I keep pristine with weekly maintenance. "But a wedding? How many people are you thinking?" I asked, already dreading the answer. "About 180, Sarah said, her voice barely above a whisper. 180 people. In my backyard. I felt my chest tighten. That's substantial, I managed. When exactly? Second Saturday in September, Tyler said quickly. We'd need Friday for setup. The rental company would deliver the tent, tables, chairs, dance floor. The wedding would be Saturday, ceremony at 4 p.m., reception until midnight. Sunday morning for cleanup, everything removed by Sunday evening. I was already calculating the complete destruction of my lawn from the tent, the liability insurance I'd need, the parking nightmare for my neighbors, the porta-potties because 2 bathrooms couldn't handle 180 people, the inevitably drunk guests wandering through my house. And, Tyler continued, and I could see him building up to something bigger, we had another idea that would really help us out. He paused, glanced at Sarah, then at Mom, who gave him an encouraging nod. After the wedding, we were hoping we could live in your basement for the first year of our marriage. Just to save money and get properly on our feet. Sarah's still finishing her administrative certification, and apprentice wages are barely $18 an hour. We're looking at $1,400 minimum for even a basic apartment, and with student loans, car payments, and everything else, we'd be living paycheck to paycheck. Your basement has its own entrance, the kitchenette, full bathroom, we'd be completely independent. You wouldn't even know we were there. The room went silent except for the grandfather clock ticking in the corner, a housewarming gift from my parents that now felt oddly ominous. The basement that I use as my home gym and office. I said slowly. Where I do my patient notes and telehealth sessions. Where I store all my seasonal equipment and renovation supplies. You could move the gym stuff to the spare bedroom upstairs, Mom said, as if she'd been waiting for her cue. And Marcus, honey, you work such long hours, you're barely home anyway. All that space just sitting empty while your brother struggles to make ends meet. Family helps family. That's what we've always taught you. It's not sitting empty, I said, hearing the edge creeping into my voice. It's my home. I use every part of this house. The basement isn't just storage, it's where I decompress, where I exercise to keep my back healthy after lifting patients all day, where I do my continuing education courses. But it's so much space for just one person, Emma added. 4 bedrooms, 3 bathrooms, a finished basement, and Tyler and Sarah would be crammed into some tiny apartment where they can hear their neighbors fighting through the walls? They'd contribute, Tyler said quickly. We could pay like $400 a month toward utilities and help with maintenance. $400. For what would normally be a $1,200 to $1,500 basement apartment rental, plus utilities. And what about the wedding? I asked. The insurance liability? The permits? The parking situation that will have my neighbors calling the police? The inevitable damage to the property? The absolute chaos of my home being invaded by 180 people? We'd handle all that, Tyler said, though his voice wavered. We'd get event insurance, manage the parking, make sure nothing gets damaged. With what money? I pressed. You just said you can barely afford a basic venue. That's different, Dad interjected, and there was that tone, the one I'd heard my whole life that suggested I was being selfish, ungrateful, forgetting where I came from. Insurance is a few $100s. We're talking about your brother's wedding, Marcus. Your only brother. Family helps family. When you were in PT school, who helped you move 3 times? Who drove you to clinical rotations when your car broke down? Who let you stay here during Christmas break when your apartment had that pipe burst? I appreciate everything you all did for me, I said carefully, feeling the familiar guilt rising. But I also paid Tyler back for the gas money within a month. I helped him move 4 times, not 3. I spent 2 entire weekends helping you renovate your bathroom, Dad. I've babysat Emma's kids dozens of times for free. This isn't the same scale. You make good money now, Emma added, her voice carrying that bitter edge it got when she talked about anyone more successful than her. Tyler's still starting out. Some of us didn't get full scholarships and have everything handed to us. I got a partial academic scholarship that covered 30% of tuition, I said, my voice rising despite myself. I worked 3 jobs during undergrad. I graduated with $65,000 in student loans that I'm still paying off. I worked as an aide wiping people's asses for $12 an hour while in school. Nothing was handed to me, Emma. Language, Mom said automatically, then continued. But you have so much now, Marcus. This beautiful house, a successful career, no family to support. Would it really kill you to share your blessings? Mom, I said, trying to stay calm, this isn't about sharing. This is about converting my home into a wedding venue for 3 days and then a multi-family dwelling for a year. We're talking about fundamentally changing my living situation for 15 months. Sarah hadn't said much, and when I caught her eye, she looked deeply uncomfortable. Her cheeks were flushed, and she was twisting her engagement ring around her finger, a nervous habit I'd noticed before. "Sarah," I said gently, "is this really what you want? 180 people in my backyard." She opened her mouth, closed it, then looked at Tyler. "We just want to start our marriage without massive debt," she said quietly. Tyler thought, well, family helps family, right? But something in her tone suggested this wasn't entirely her idea. "Just think about it," Mom said, but her tone suggested she expected only one answer. "Take a few days. Pray about it. Think about what family means." They left shortly after, the atmosphere thick with tension. Tyler hugged me at the door, whispering, "Come on, bro, don't leave me hanging." Sarah barely made eye contact. Emma muttered something about some people forgetting their roots. Dad shook my hand with that disappointed father grip that communicated volumes. Since then, I've been bombarded. Mom texts me Bible verses about generosity every morning. Dad sends emails with subject lines like, "The importance of family bonds," and "Remember when you needed us?" Emma created a Pinterest board called Marcus's Backyard Wedding and shared it with me, filled with tent configurations and lighting ideas. Tyler sends daily texts that range from pleading, "Please bro, I really need this," to guilt-tripping, "I guess I know where I stand with you," to angry, "Must be nice to have so much you can't share." But it's the indirect pressure that's worse. Mom called my aunt, who called me about how wonderful it would be to see a wedding at my house. My cousin texted asking if it was true I was forcing Tyler to go into debt for his wedding. Grandma, my 90-year-old grandma, called saying she was disappointed to hear I wouldn't help Tyler, though she clearly didn't have the full story. I feel like I'm going insane. Every time I come home, instead of feeling peaceful, I imagine 180 people trampling through. I see Tyler and Sarah in my basement for a year, hearing them through the floors, sharing my space, my refrigerator getting mysteriously empty, my utility bills doubling, never being able to walk around in my boxers or have a date over without complexity. I worked myself into the ground for this house. 60-hour week standard, 70 during busy periods. I've been vomited on, sworn at, had patients' family members scream that I'm not doing enough. I've herniated a disc in my back from lifting patients and worked through the pain for weeks because we were short-staffed. I've held crying widows whose husbands died during therapy, talked suicidal patients through dark moments, watched young athletes realize their dreams are over. This house is where I recover from all that. It's where I can sit in absolute silence, where I can blast music while cooking, where I can have friends over without asking anyone's permission, where I can walk naked from my bedroom to the laundry room, where I can bring home dates without explanation, where I can exercise at 5 a.m. or midnight depending on my schedule. Am I being unreasonable? Am I the selfish monster my family is painting me as? I love my brother, but this feels like beyond too much. The guilt is eating me alive. I can barely eat. I'm not sleeping. I snapped at a patient yesterday and had to apologize profusely. But the thought of saying yes makes me feel physically ill, like I'm being asked to give up not just my space but my sanctuary, my peace, my autonomy. What would you do? Update 1, 2 weeks later. Thank you to everyone who responded to my original post. Your comments gave me the clarity and courage I desperately needed. Things got significantly worse before they got better, but I have updates to share. The week after my post, the family pressure campaign intensified to levels I didn't think possible. Mom called me crying, actually sobbing, saying I was destroying Tyler's chance at happiness, and that she didn't raise me to be this cold. She even said, "Your father and I wonder where we went wrong with you." Dad sent a 3-page email with the subject line, "A Father's Disappointment," that detailed every sacrifice they'd made, from driving me to Little League to helping with college move-in, as if basic parenting was a debt I needed to repay with compound interest. He actually wrote, "Success without family is failure, son." Emma started a family group chat titled, "Help Tyler and Sarah Have Their Dream Wedding," where she shared wedding planning articles, posts about toxic individualism in modern society, and passive-aggressive memes about selfish rich people. She added every cousin, aunt, uncle, and family friend she could think of. The messages ranged from subtle, "Can't wait to see Marcus's beautiful yard decorated for the wedding," to direct, "Marcus, don't be the reason Tyler's marriage starts in debt." I was cracking under the pressure. I made 3 documentation errors at work, something I'd never done in 4 years. I snapped at a patient who was moving slowly, immediately horrifying myself. I wasn't eating properly, surviving on protein bars and coffee. I'd lost 8 pounds in 2 weeks. My clinic director, James, noticed my decline immediately. He called me into his office after I nearly dropped a patient during a transfer, a cardinal sin in our profession that could have resulted in injury and lawsuit. "Marcus, what the hell is going on?" he asked, his tone mixing concern with frustration. You're one of my best therapists, and lately, you're performing like a first-year student. Are you sick? Family emergency? Talk to me. James is in his 50s, owns 4 therapy clinics, and has been my mentor since I started. He's usually all business, so I expected him to tell me to handle my personal life on my own time. Instead, I found myself spilling the entire story: the house, the wedding, the basement, the guilt, everything. He listened without interrupting, occasionally nodding. When I finished, he leaned back and laughed, not mockingly, but with genuine recognition. Let me guess, he said. First generation to achieve real financial success? Blue-collar family? Everything was we, until you had something they wanted. I nodded, surprised at his immediate understanding. Marcus, let me tell you a story, he said, pouring us both coffee from his personal machine. 23 years ago, when I opened my first clinic, I was the first in my family to own a business, to have real assets. My brother, love him dearly, asked to borrow $30,000 to start a restaurant. Not invest, mind you. Borrow. No business plan, no experience in food service, just dreams and the assumption that my success was somehow communal property. What did you do? I asked. My parents called me selfish, evil, told me I'd forgotten where I came from. My siblings said I thought I was better than them. My brother didn't speak to me for 2 years. He paused, sipping his coffee. You know what his restaurant concept was? Dessert pizzas. Only dessert pizzas. Nothing else. Sweet pizzas with candy toppings. Despite my stress, I almost laughed. He would have failed spectacularly, James continued. Instead, he got angry, got motivated, went into medical device sales, and now makes more than I do. But if I'd given him that money, he'd have failed, blamed me for not stopping him, and probably still be asking for more money to this day. This feels different, I said. They're not asking for money directly. Aren't they? James pulled out his phone calculator. Let's do real math here. Wedding venue for 180 people in September. What's the going rate? We looked up comparable venues. For a Saturday in September, with a garden ceremony and tented reception with those amenities, venues ranged from $8,000 to $18,000. Let's be conservative, James said, typing. $10,000 for venue. What's basement apartment rental in your area? About $1,200 to $1,500 for a furnished basement with separate entrance, I said. Let's say $1,300 average, times 12 months, $15,600. Utilities. Probably $200 to $300 monthly with 2 people showering, cooking, climate control. Let's say $250 times 12, $3,000. So we're at $28,600 in direct value. Now add wear and tear on your property, loss of privacy, which as an introvert in a high-stress job is invaluable, potential property damage, liability risks, impact on your dating life, ability to have friends over, walk around freely in your own home, the precedent it sets for future asks. Jesus, I said, seeing it laid out. Nearly $30,000. Plus opportunity cost, James added. What if you meet someone and want them to move in? What if you want to renovate? What if you get a job opportunity elsewhere? You're basically frozen for 15 months. And here's the big one. Once you do this, you become the family resource. Next year it's Emma's kid's birthday party, then your parents' anniversary, then cousins' weddings. You'll never own your house again. He was right, and I knew it. Here's what you're going to do, James said, his tone shifting to directive. You're going to send one message, clear and final. No justifications, no explanations they can argue against, no wiggle room. And then you're going to prepare for backlash, possibly including temporary estrangement. That night, I composed a message to the family group chat. I've given Tyler and Sarah's request careful consideration. While I wish them happiness in their marriage, I cannot offer my house as a wedding venue or living space. This decision is final. I'm happy to contribute $500 toward their wedding as my gift and will help with setup at whatever venue they choose. I ask that you respect my decision and stop the pressure campaign, which is affecting my work performance and health. The responses were swift and brutal. Mom, I'm disappointed and disgusted by the person you've become. Money has changed you. Dad, success has revealed your true character, and it's ugly. Emma, wow. Just fucking wow. Remember this when you need family. Tyler didn't respond in the chat, but texted privately, thanks for nothing. Don't bother coming to the wedding. Various relatives chimed in with their disappointment, their shock, their opinions about my selfishness. The only unexpected response came from Sarah, who texted me privately. I understand. For what it's worth, I was never comfortable with the ask. It felt too big. Tyler's hurt, but he needs to hear no sometimes. I'm sorry about how everyone's treating you. Update 2, 6 weeks later. The silent treatment for my immediate family lasted 3 weeks. No calls, texts, or acknowledgments of my existence. They removed me from social media, excluded me from family updates, and Mom even canceled my birthday dinner reservation. My birthday was during this period, and I spent it alone, getting takeout and wondering if I'd made a terrible mistake. Then Tyler called at 11:47 p.m. on a Tuesday. I could tell immediately he was drunk. His words slurred slightly, and I heard bar noises in the background. "Marcus," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "Sarah's gonna leave me." "What?" "Tyler, what happened?" "She says I'm being a child. That I'm manipulative and entitled, and she's embarrassed by how our family is acting. She's staying with her parents. She says if I don't fix this, the wedding's off." "Tyler, you're drunk." "Where are you?" "Murphy's Pub. And I'm not that drunk. Just drunk enough to realize I fucked up." I drove to pick him up, finding him on the curb outside the bar, head in his hands. He looked rough, unshaven, red-eyed, clearly hadn't been sleeping well. On the drive to his apartment, he started talking. "Sarah's parents think we're all crazy. Her dad told her that if his family had asked for something like that, he'd have cut them off. Her mom said it's emotional blackmail. They're offering to pay for a small wedding themselves just so Sarah doesn't have to deal with our family." "That's generous of them," I said carefully. "You know what Sarah told me?" Tyler continued. "She said she never wanted 180 people. She wanted maybe 50, just close friends and immediate family. The big wedding was Mom's idea. Mom gave us a list of 120 must-invite people. Second cousins I've never met, Dad's work friends, her book club ladies." We reached his apartment, but he kept talking. "And the basement thing? That was Mom's idea too. She said you had too much for one person, and that you needed to learn to share. She said if we were living there, you'd have to settle down, stop being so independent, maybe find a nice girl and start a family because you'd see how happy we were. Mom wanted to manipulate my entire life trajectory?" I said, stunned but somehow not surprised. "She thinks you're too isolated, too focused on work. She figured if we were in your space, you'd have to be more family-oriented." "That's genuinely disturbing, Tyler." "I know," he said, starting to cry. "I know, okay? Sarah made me see it. We've been going to premarital counseling, and the counselor asked why I felt entitled to your house. I couldn't answer. Then she asked if I'd ever asked Sarah's siblings for something similar, and I was horrified at the thought. I helped him inside, got him water and ibuprofen, and sat with him while he sobered up. Sarah says if we start our marriage depending on others, we'll never be independent. She says it sets a bad precedent, that every time things get tough, I'll run to family instead of figuring it out with her. She's right. She sounds like a smart woman," I said. "I'm going to lose her because I'm a mama's boy who can't say no to his family," Tyler said miserably. "Then change," I said simply. "You're 25, not 15. Stand up to Mom. Plan the wedding you and Sarah want. Get your own place. Be an adult." 2 days later, Tyler called me sober. He'd talked to Sarah, really talked. They decided on a new plan, a 70-person wedding at the community center where they'd met, simple decorations, buffet-style dinner from a local restaurant they loved. Total cost, about $4,000, which they could afford with their savings and her parents' contribution. "Mom's going to freak," Tyler said. "Probably," I agreed. Will you be there when I tell them?" he asked. "I could use backup." So that Sunday, I went with Tyler to our parents' house. The explosion was spectacular. Mom actually screamed. "The community center? That's where poor people get married. What will everyone think? That we're practical?" Tyler suggested. "This is Marcus's influence," Dad said, pointing at me. "He's turned you against family." "No," Tyler said firmly. "Marcus taught me to stand on my own feet. I'm 25 years old, and I've never made a real decision without Mom's input. That's not healthy. Family stays close." Mom shouted. "Family depends on each other." "Family respects each other," Tyler countered. "Asking Marcus for $30,000 worth of free venue and housing isn't respect, it's exploitation." "30,000? Mom sputtered. Tyler pulled out his phone, showing the math James and I had done. We were asking him to give us the equivalent of $30,000. Did you ever think about that? Or did you just see his nice house and think we deserved part of it? The room went silent. Finally, Dad spoke. We just wanted our children to help each other. Help and exploitation aren't the same thing, I said. I offered to help. I offered money toward the wedding, help with setup, anything reasonable. You wanted me to give up my home. Emma, who'd been quiet, suddenly said, maybe we have been unfair. Everyone turned to stare at her. I mean, I wouldn't let any of you live in my house for a year. I don't even like when you visit for a weekend. It was the first crack in the family dynamic. Final update, 4 months later, 1 month post-wedding. I'm writing this from my living room while Tyler and Sarah prepare dinner in my kitchen. We've established a weekly tradition, Sunday dinners rotating between hosts. Tonight, they're making their famous taco bar, and my house smells like cilantro and lime. The wedding last month was perfect. The community center looked beautiful with Sarah's simple decorations, string lights, mason jar centerpieces with wildflowers, and photos of them throughout their relationship. During the ceremony, Sarah's maid of honor mentioned how meaningful it was to have the wedding where Tyler and Sarah met at a volunteer event, had their first kiss at a charity auction, and got engaged after the center's Christmas party. Only 72 people attended, and it was perfect. Everyone could actually talk, dance, and celebrate together. Mom initially wore what I can only describe as a funeral face, but relaxed when her friends complimented the intimate, personal feeling and said it was so much classier than those huge, impersonal weddings. Dad grumbled about the smaller guest list until he realized he could have actual conversations instead of playing host. By the end of the night, he was dancing with Mom to their wedding song, looking happier than I'd seen him in years. Emma brought her new boyfriend, who pulled me aside to say, "Your brother seems really grounded. So many people our age expect their families to fund everything. It's refreshing to see someone taking responsibility." The apartment Tyler and Sarah rented is small, a 1-bedroom in an older complex, but they've made it charming. Sarah decorated with thrift store finds and DIY projects. Tyler's been teaching himself home repairs through YouTube, and the landlord reduced their rent by $100 per month in exchange for Tyler doing maintenance. You know what I realized? Sarah told me last week while we prepped vegetables. If we'd lived in your basement, we would have started our marriage as children playing house, not adults building a life. I would have resented Tyler for not providing. He would have resented me for pushing back against his family, and you would have resented both of us for invading your space. Plus, Tyler added, we never would have learned to budget, to compromise, to make decisions together. Our first fight was over whether to buy a new couch or save for a vacation. We worked through it ourselves, came up with a solution, saved for 3 months, bought a used couch, and are planning a camping trip instead of an expensive vacation. If we'd been in your basement, we'd have just bought both and figured you'd cover utilities if we came up short. My relationship with our parents has evolved significantly. We're not as close as before, but it's healthier. They ask before assuming, offer rather than demand. Last week, Mom actually called to see if I was free for dinner instead of just showing up. I owe you an apology, she said last month, surprisingly. I treated your success like it belonged to all of us. That wasn't fair. I was so focused on Tyler getting married without debt that I forgot you worked hard for what you have. Dad's apology was simpler. I was wrong. You're a good son and a good brother. I'm proud of what you've accomplished. Emma and I have actually grown closer through this. She admitted she was jealous and projected her financial struggles onto me. I helped her create a budget, reviewed her resume, and connected her with a recruiter I knew. She started a new job last month with a 40% salary increase. I realized I was mad at you for having what I wanted instead of working to get it myself, she said. The therapy I started has been transformative. My therapist helped me understand that my family had trained me from childhood to feel guilty for any success, to believe that doing well meant I owed everyone else. She's helped me see that helping family should come from love, not obligation. Your family created a dynamic where love was transactional, she explained. Every good deed came with future debt attached. That's not healthy love, that's emotional loan sharking. James was right about the precedent issue. When Cousin Marie heard about Tyler's wedding, she called to discuss her own wedding next year and how perfect my backyard would be. I politely declined and sent her 3 venue recommendations within her budget. She was cold for exactly 1 week, then texted excitedly about a barn venue she'd found that was absolutely perfect for her rustic theme. Looking back, I see how necessary this conflict was. Tyler and I had been stuck in childhood roles. He was the baby who needed rescuing, I was the successful one who should provide. These roles were suffocating us both and preventing real relationship. You know what the best part is? Tyler said last week while helping me install new shelves in my basement gym, the gym that would have been their apartment. I feel like an actual adult for the first time. I'm 26 years old, and this is the first year I haven't run to mom or you for every decision. Sarah and I figured out our own insurance, our own bills, our own problems. It feels amazing. I'm proud of you, I said, meaning it. I'm glad you said no, he continued. At the time, I was furious. But you gave me something more valuable than a free wedding or free rent. You gave me the push to grow up. Sarah and I are equals now, partners. If we'd lived here, I'd always be the little brother taking handouts. Tonight, as we eat dinner together, I'm struck by how much healthier our relationship is. They come over by invitation, not assumption. They contribute to meals, not expect to be served. We split restaurant checks without awkwardness. They ask about my work and actually listen, and I do the same for them. The family group chat, once a source of manipulation and guilt, has become genuinely enjoyable. Photos of Tyler and Sarah's apartment improvements, Emma's new job celebrations, mom's garden progress, dad's fishing trips. No guilt, no manipulation, just family sharing life. My house remains my sanctuary. After long days of helping patients rebuild their bodies and lives, I come home to peace. My basement gym is where I maintain my physical health, crucial when your job involves lifting and supporting people all day. My garden is where I find mental clarity. My space is truly mine, which makes me genuinely happy to share it when I choose. The financial impact would have been even worse than James calculated. I recently got quotes for the property damage that would have likely occurred. Professional lawn restoration after tent damage runs $3,000 to $5,000. The additional insurance for a 180-person event would have been $2,000. Porta potty rentals for that many people, $800. Security, required by my township for events over 100 people, $500. We were really looking at close to $35,000 in value. But beyond money, the personal cost would have been immeasurable. I've started dating someone, a pediatric nurse named Lauren who understands long hours and needing space to decompress. She spent the night last weekend, and we made breakfast together in peaceful quiet, no worry about anyone else being around. That simple freedom is priceless. To those facing similar situations, here's what I learned. First, calculate the actual value. Seeing real numbers, $30,000 in our case, cuts through emotional manipulation and shows the true scope of what's being asked. Second, no is a complete sentence. You don't need to justify protecting your resources, space, and peace. The more you explain, the more they'll argue. Third, helping family should come from love, not guilt. If you're being guilt, it's not help, it's extraction. Fourth, setting boundaries isn't selfish. It's necessary for healthy relationships. Without boundaries, resentment builds and relationships crumble. Fifth, sometimes people need to struggle to grow. Constantly rescuing someone robs them of the chance to develop strength and independence. Sixth, family patterns can be broken, but it takes courage to be the first to break them. You'll face resistance, anger, and guilt tripping. Stand firm. Seventh, therapy helps immensely. Find someone who understands family dynamics and boundaries. It's worth every penny. Eighth, true family respects your success rather than seeing it as communal property. They celebrate your achievements without calculating what they're owed. As I finish writing this update, Tyler and Sarah are laughing in my kitchen about something that happened at their apartment. Their upstairs neighbor apparently tried to train a rooster illegally, and chaos ensued. They're planning their one-year anniversary trip, showing me their budget spreadsheet with pride. They've saved $50 every month for it, choosing experiences over things. We're thinking camping in the mountains, Sarah says. 3 days, just us, no cell service. Remember when we thought we needed a fancy resort? Tyler adds, shaking his head. Now I realize the best part will just be time together without distractions. They've grown so much in these months. Tyler got promoted to journeyman electrician ahead of schedule. Sarah got her administrative certification and received a raise. They're talking about buying a small house in 2 years, a fixer-upper they can renovate together. We want to do what you did, Tyler explains. Find something that needs work, make it ours with our own hands. But smaller, we don't need 4 bedrooms and a basement apartment, he adds with a grin. My family learned that my success doesn't diminish them, and their struggles don't entitle them to my resources. We found balance between support and independence, between family bonds and individual boundaries. The house that almost broke us apart has become the place where we gather by choice, not obligation. Tyler and Sarah host game nights in their apartment once a month. Emma hosts brunches. My parents have us over for holidays. And I host these Sunday dinners, genuinely happy to share my space with family who respects it. You know what's funny? Tyler says as they pack up leftovers to take home. If you'd said yes, we'd probably all hate each other by now. Sarah and I would be stressed about imposing, you'd resent us being here, Mom would be interfering constantly because she'd see it as partly her house since her idea made it happen. Instead, Sarah adds, we all actually like each other. These dinners are the highlight of my week because they're chosen, not forced. As they leave, Tyler turns back. Thank you for saying no. It was the best gift you could have given us, the chance to build our own life. Watching them drive away in their reliable but modest car, heading to their small but loved apartment, I realized that by protecting my boundaries, I gave them something more valuable than money or space. I gave them the opportunity to discover their own strength, their own capability, their own adulthood. The wedding that didn't happen at my house, the year they didn't live in my basement, these non-events might be the best things that ever happened to our family. We learned the difference between support and enabling, between family and enmeshment, between love and obligation. My house stands peaceful in the evening light, my sanctuary intact. But more importantly, my relationships are healthier than ever. That's the real victory, not just keeping my boundaries, but discovering that true family relationships thrive when everyone stands on their own feet, choosing to come together rather than being guilt into it. The guilt is gone, replaced by genuine affection. The obligation has transformed into voluntary generosity. And my family, we're stronger than ever, not despite the conflict, but because we worked through it and came out the other side with respect, understanding, and actual healthy love.